live?
Remind me of this kid that was standing
All
behind.
right, everybody, we
Yeah.
are live. We are
What he
live.
said.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, Janelle, we need to get Aaliyah on the phone.
Thank you.
We need to get Aaliyah on the phone.
Yeah.
Somebody's like,
Sounds like it's my neighbor across the street, actually.
somebody's getting wild and
Yeah.
amazing.
He's on his way home.
Yeah, Monday night.
All right, it's 5:30.
Hey, you guys there?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us? Aaliyah,
Hello?
Can you hear
Can
us?
you hear me? Yes.
Okay.
okay, great. All right, we'll go ahead and call the work session for November 25th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. Aaliyah, we're just going to go ahead and go around the room so that you know who's sitting in the room with us since you're not present. So it's me, Mayor Machado.
Daisha Edwards.
Scott Murray.
Alana Vino.
Greg Flesvig.
Phil Gerke.
And Janelle.
And we also have Mr. Fred sitting in the audience as well. All right, so we left off last time, and we still have sections 2 and 3 to go through of the proposed ethical guidelines and standards of professional conduct for elected officials. I did send an email out to everybody a week ago for anybody to give me any additional updates, suggestions, changes that they would like for the attorneys to look at. Mostly everybody went ahead and sent in their suggestions and their thoughts, and we've incorporated some of those into where we're at. We've got an hour to go through sections 2 and 3. However, we will be putting, this is on the agenda for the first initial vote for tonight. So if there's any changes, any additional changes that we need to make, we can end up addressing that in council tonight. So let's go through it line by line. Section 2, standards of professional conduct. The standards of professional conduct is a set of standards for all members of the governing body. The members of the governing body experience increased workloads based on their commitment to the town, in addition to their personal lives. All members are expected and called upon to exhibit appropriate behavior at all times. The decisions made by the governing body significantly impact the town and its residents, and all members of the governing body must take their position seriously and treat it and others with respect. Demonstrating respect for the town and each individual through words and actions is crucial for the success of the town and the cornerstone to a properly functioning municipal government in even the most difficult situations. Any changes in that section? Okay. Line item A, role of the governing body. The governing body determines the ordinances and resolutions of the town with the advice, information, and analysis provided by the public, department heads, town employees and staff, and other hired professionals. The governing body shall not interfere with the administrative functions of the town or the professional duties of the department heads and town staff, nor shall members impair the ability of staff, department heads, or hired professionals to implement decisions made by the governing body. Any changes with that section? Okay. Line item I, Mayor. 1, acts as the official head of the town, chairs town council meetings, calls special meetings, calls all meetings to order, determines points of order for meetings, states when motions are submitted to vote and takes the vote, serves as the spokesperson for the town, leads the governing body as an effective, cohesive working team, signs checks, documents, contracts, resolutions, and ordinances on behalf of the town, be an authorized signer on the town's bank accounts, and carry out other duties described in the employee handbook and as may be set forth in laws and ordinances. Line item 2, perform all duties of a general council member. Any thoughts, changes, suggestions for that section? Okay. All right. Council president, act as mayor pro tem in the mayor's absence or vacancy of the seat of the mayor and carry out the duties enumerated above, perform all duties assigned by the mayor, and be an authorized signer on the town's bank accounts. Line item 2, perform all duties of a general council member. Any thoughts or suggestions, changes for council president? Okay. All right, council members, line item 1, fully participate in all town council meetings. Pursuant to WS 15-1-107, a vacancy of a member's position occurs when a member of the governing body fails to attend 4 or more consecutive town council meetings without an excused absence. And again, the excused absence really can just be letting Janelle or myself know that you guys are going to be gone. I mean, we would expect that either way with communication. And that's at least been what it's been since I've been on for the last 4 years. Line item 2, email, text, or call mayor or town clerk to obtain excused absence from a town council meeting or special meeting in the event the member is unable to attend the meeting. If council members call or email and say they can't make it, then you can't make it. I mean, we're not going to say you have to attend. We just want the communication. 3, respond to governing body related emails in a timely manner. I would also like to add in number 3 as well, and this was something that a resident had brought up to me today actually, that they would also like to add the governing body responding to resident emails in a timely manner as well. Because this said resident has stated that when they have reached out through an email to council members, some of the council members have not responded either within a week's time frame or they just didn't respond at all. So I would like to at least bring that resident's voice into the mix on this side, that I would also like to add the governing body also responding in a timely manner to the constituents of the town of Evansville.
So I have a question about that then.
Yes.
So what happens if you get like a nasty gram in an email?
Yeah.
And it's not something that you're like, you know, like
I'm
if
not responding to that.
thank you. That's what I was trying to get at.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
so Aaliyah Scott, so how could we potentially address that part? If council doesn't want to respond to an inappropriate email that a resident is being attacked for, would it initially be they could end up sending it to myself and or Janelle, because we tend to address lots of
I mean,
those
like, cause like
emails and
some emails,
interfaces.
like I've gotten, like, I'll read the person's email, read what they say, and it's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
Cause I like a lot of emails, like, I mean, I read, like, there was one that I got, like, you know, I think most of us got last week, and I read it, and it's just kind of like, cool, you know what I mean? Like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think that begs the question, as council members, do you guys feel comfortable with responding to residents' emails, no matter what the context of the email is?
I guess if it's a nasty one, it will be depending on if I want to respond to it or not. I mean, but most emails, it's like, oh, hey, thanks for messaging me. I appreciate the feedback and I appreciate the heads up or whatever it is.
Mhm.
I mean, just a simple, that back, but I mean, obviously, and Dacia's, as she said, I'm just like, yeah, if there's something that way, I'll be like, it would not behoove them or me to respond back.
Okay,
like the one, like, for instance, like, I'm talking about, like, I didn't respond back to their email, but per se, like, I called them unless this person was like, hey, I got your email, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know, and did whatever my reflection was versus responding back. But sometimes I just don't think that everything
It
needs.
doesn't need to.
Yeah,
Everything needs
like,
to
I read it.
I'm just bringing it in because a resident brought it to me today, and I want to make sure that their voice is heard so that we can determine moving forward how we address that. Now, granted, I will say, the last 4 years when I was on council before I stepped into the mayor role, I didn't get many, maybe a handful of emails from people over the last several years. But the moment I stepped into a different role was the moment that the emails were rolling very frequently into my inbox. Greg, thoughts? Councilman?
Yes. Yeah, I have no problem replying to something like that. I too just have maybe a handful of residents or stuff. But yeah, nothing, a lot of sales.
Mhm. Yeah, me
From
too.
Wham and from
Yeah.
this and that.
Yeah.
And if you guys feel like you don't want to put it in, that's fine, but I at least want to have that resident have the voice that they would like for us to be responding to them.
This one, I would say I would like to personally step out on that one because I don't necessarily want to get into per se where you're promising to do something when it's like, nah, that, you know what I mean? Like, I just think that the town emails, yeah, definitely. Or if like Scott or Aaliyah or someone, like one of the other people shoots you something, yeah, sure, respond back. But
Okay. So are we comfortable with responding to residents' emails, or do we want to leave it out?
I'd like to leave it out.
Gentlemen?
I think you guys
Yeah.
should like kind of have a policy, internal policy, you know, amongst yourselves about if you get an email that is negative or is asking a question that kind of deserves a response, but you don't want to respond to it, I think that it should be forwarded to the mayor and the mayor should respond.
Are you guys okay with that? If you guys don't feel comfortable with responding to it, you guys could forward it to me and then I'll respond.
Right.
I mean, I don't disagree with Aaliyah. We probably should have something put in place so that
I mean, it
our
doesn't,
constituents don't think that
Right, I
we're
mean-
not wanting to respond to them.
right, I mean, I guess to me, it's one of those, I mean, if it deserves a response, it can get a response.
Okay.
Respond to emails pertaining to
Okay.
legitimate, you know, town business,
To
regardless of who the
emails
sender is,
regarding town business. Okay.
or to that effect.
Okay. No, I like the way that you said that. Okay. Okay. So line item 4, prepare in advance of all town council meetings and be familiar with issues and items on the agenda. I feel like that speaks for itself. We need to be prepared. Line item 5, participate in work sessions when available. And we did add the when available because sometimes people are out, people are sick, people are on vacations. That does happen. Any additional suggestions for that section? Okay. Line item B, conduct expectations at council meetings. Arrive on time, dress in an appropriate and presentable manner, silent cell phones, be respectful of other people's time, stay focused and act efficiently while adhering to the agenda items, use formal titles, practice civility and decorum in discussions and debates on issues before the governing body, honor the role of the mayor or mayor pro tem, demonstrate effective problem-solving approaches, engage in active listening, and avoid debate with member of the public during public comments. Because we really don't want to get into a back and forth with people, which that hasn't really, I can't say in the last 4 years that that's happened frequently. We've had a
Just
couple
a
of
couple,
We've
yeah.
had a couple of instances, but it's not frequent. Line item C, conduct expectations at town events and when acting in one's capacity as a town council member. I participate in activities and ceremonial functions scheduled by the town when available. Demonstrate honesty and integrity in every communication and action. Serve as a model of leadership and civility to the community. Be cognizant of engaging in communications involving town business and your position on council when conducting town business, council business, or attending community functions. Do not make promises on behalf of the town or the governing body, which is what you had just said. Refrain from making personal comments about other members of the governing body, town staff, employees, department heads, or professionals while at town events, functions, or when acting on behalf of the town as a council member. Do not engage in any acts which would constitute harassment, which is to include verbal harassment, physical harassment, and or sexual harassment. And making a note of including but not limited to. So we're just making a note here. Any changes, questions, or thoughts in regards to C, section C? Okay. Section D, social media. I want to go through all of this, but then I want to add something to it because Aaliyah and I had a really solid conversation, and the mayors and commissioners had a solid conversation last week about how we can, as council members and elected officials, how we can protect ourselves and separate the personal side of us as people versus the governing body side. And so I would think that this is actually going to be a larger discussion in Natrona County moving forward and not just a discussion here in Evansville, but I'll get to that in just a second. Official social media. So official town of Evansville social media communication shall only be posted by the mayor and town clerk at the direct request of the mayor on the official town of Evansville social media page and platform. So there's only one official town of Evansville page. The neighborhood watch page and the additional town of Evansville pages, those are run by residents. They are not run by the town of Evansville. And what we're talking about here in this section is the actual official town page. These posts may be cross-posted or shared on other pages related to the town of Evansville. Council members may share or repost official town social media posts and communications. So we're not dictating the pages that do not belong to the town. We're talking about our only one town page here. Members of the governing body may share, like, repost, or comment on posts generated by the town on its official pages. If and when members choose to share, like, repost, or comment on posts generated and created by the town, they are expected to conduct themselves in a professional manner and to respect the views and opinions of others. Now, on the town page, we have comments turned off, if you weren't aware of that, on the official town page. And that's partially because any comment that comes in, Janelle has to make a record of that comment, and she has to dictate every single comment that comes in. So we don't actually have comments on the official page. Say if it was the neighborhood watch page or the additional resident Evansville page, obviously we don't dictate comments in that regard. But again, we're just talking about our one page. Members who share, like, repost, or comment on the town social media activity must disclose private or confidential information.
Must not disclose.
Oh, must not, excuse me, thank you, thank you. Must not disclose private or confidential information about the town, its employees, residents, contracts, suppliers, or policies on social networks, and must conduct themselves in accordance with best industry practices in social networking, be responsible citizens and community members, and communicate in a courteous and professional manner. It is recommended for all members to be cognizant about their online behavior and avoid content that may be deemed disrespectful, dishonest, offensive, harassing, or damaging to the town's interests or reputation. If a member comments or makes a post regarding town business or related to his or her position as a council member, the comment and or post shall state whether the communication is his or her personal opinion or his or her opinion as an official member of the governing body of the town of Evansville. I'm just going to flag this one for a second because I'm going to come back to it. Members of the governing body shall not respond to nor engage with negative comments, false assertions, or posts made to the town's official page. Again, we're just talking about the one page. The mayor is the official spokesperson for the town and on the town's policies. It is not the member's role to defend or speak on behalf of the town online. So if we go back to V, so the commissioners and the mayors of Natrona County last Thursday, we had talked about having there be moving forward, because this is kind of in an infancy conversation stage, of there being separation between let's say, Councilman Greg. So Greg, your personal social media page would be separate from, say, Councilman Flesvig's page. So the county commissioners and the mayors were talking last week about should elected officials in Natrona County end up having separate pages. So your councilman social media page would be separate from Greg's page. Aaliyah brought up a good point to me earlier today that when we are engaging out there in the public eye, there really is no separation. Aaliyah, would you like to speak further on that?
Sure. I mean, what you and I talked about before is it's really hard to separate yourself from yourself when you in your capacity as the person that you are also as a council member. And so when you're using one social media page to both, do post whatever you want personally about your family or anything else, that in of itself is council business. And so to have a distinguishing page be your specific council page would be just a really easy way to keep those things separate for your personal self and for the town's interest as well. So I think that would be a very easy way to not have to deal with thinking about, am I posting this in my professional capacity or in my personal capacity? And I think you'll just keep things really clean.
And that was piggybacking off of, again, the commissioner and mayor's discussion last week about social media is not going away. Technology is not going away. And we're having to catch up with all of the extra things that come along with that piece. What I've specifically done, at least on my side, is I am now transitioning into having the mayor page be completely separate than my personal page. And if I am interacting from this point forward, I will be interacting in different roles and different capacities, whatever that might look like. But that's also a way for me to continue to, I don't know if protect is the right word, but it's a way for me to literally, it's a way for me to protect, that capacity and that separation. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's got to get a council social media page. Like, if you're not big on social media, that's fine. But I think it is definitely something to at least consider, that there really is not a separation when we are in these positions. So just something to consider and think about, because I do think that the Natrona County commissioners and the other mayors and other municipalities, since it got brought up last week, I do think that this is going to be a continual discussion moving forward about how elected officials in Natrona County are engaging out there on social media in the public eye and how they're presenting themselves. Because this seems to be quite the topic of conversation in other municipalities as well. So I just wanted to bring that thought out there. Obviously, we can't say go and get a different page, but I feel more comfortable now that I've got a separation on social media with that stuff.
That would
Any-
include LinkedIn, Snapchat, X, TikTok. and
Yeah,
everything,
I'm
all the
moving all of it over. Yeah. Because honestly, I think that potentially we're probably going to end up moving in that direction. I mean, even there was even a discussion about all the other social media platforms too, making the distinction and the separation all the way around. I just think that at least the people that I've talked to, the mayors and commissioners that I've talked to, and the other council members that I've spoken to from other municipalities, some of them have separation right now, and others of them do not have separation right now when it comes to social media. But there's a lot of conversation that's happening out in the community with other elected officials about whether or not if they need to start going that direction of making the separation. But again, I'm not saying anybody's got to do that. I'm just bringing that up because I don't think that social media is going to go away. So
Unfortunately.
unfortunately, yes. Line item E, conduct with town employees, staff, department heads, and hired appointed professionals. Treat all persons as equals and professionals. Be respectful of other people's time. Do not disrupt them from their duties. Be professional when addressing departments and or town employees in person, in conversation, at meetings, and on social media platforms. The mayor shall function as the mediator between town employees, staff, and department heads regarding administrative functions. Guidelines for questions, inquiries to town employees, staff, department heads, and town professionals. All right, 1, in general, all requests for either non-public information or questions which require significant time to respond or the collection and production of materials or documents related to town business must be made through the mayor. And that's something that already technically happens. I mean, if somebody's reaching out to Janelle, Janelle will reach out to me. If they're reaching out to me, I will technically reach back out to Janelle to get the proper information out to people. That's just kind of the way that it already functions. Line item A, exceptions, routine requests for information readily available to the general public. We make all information open to the public. There's nothing that we don't disclose to the public. So I'll use Fred as an example because he's sitting in the audience. So Fred has come in before and he's asked for, specific things in regards to like work session stuff, council session stuff, just extra information. And we've always been ready to give that information or email that information over to Fred or any other resident who wants to ask for something. So that's pretty standard practice. Line item 2, any member who wishes to have a meeting with a town employee or professional to discuss a specific matter or topic must make a request to the mayor. Notice of any scheduled meeting must be made to all members of the governing body, and all members shall be permitted to attend. The goal is for transparency of information and effective communication. Line item 3, members are permitted to stop by departments to familiarize themselves with the daily operations of the town. However, it is pertinent that a specific appointment be made with the department head for a tour at a time that is convenient with their schedule and does not disrupt the flow of their duties, because our department heads are pretty busy always in the town. Elected officials shall not exhibit inappropriate behavior of a sexual nature or have an unprofessional sexual relationship with town employees while the elected official is serving his or her term on the governing body. Any questions, thoughts, changes that we would potentially like to make? Okay. All right, we're doing good. Okay,
Let's keep rolling.
let's keep rolling. Section 3, statutory violations. All right, line item A, criminal citations. WS 6-5-101 extends to the criminal code provisions on conflicts of interest to any official of any town. Depending on the violation, a violating member could be charged with a misdemeanor or felony. The violation of any statute relating to official duties of the member can result in criminal penalty. Line item B, civil penalty. Any member who knowingly or intentionally takes an action in violation of or conspires to take an action in violation of the open meetings law shall be liable for a civil penalty. The violation of any statute relating to official duties of the member can result in a civil penalty. Removal from office. Any action of a member which causes a vacancy shall result in removal of the member from his or her position within the governing body. Any action of a member determined by a majority vote of the governing body to disqualify the member from holding his or her position within the governing body shall result in removal of the member from his or her position within the governing body.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is that if the person has violated a law? The reason why I'm asking is because if we're elected by the town members, I don't understand, like if you break a rule that's like what could happen potentially, or if you break a law, like if you're looking at getting misdemeanor or felony charges. Is that what that means?
So Scott, Lee, I'll let you guys go there.
And I mean, these are just pulled straight from statute, basically. And so, for example, that second section of 22-18-101, that's just, I mean, it's really just saying that if a member is determined by the governing body to have done any of these things that are listed within the statute to be disqualified.
Okay.
And so
I'm good then.
vacancy, or in the first section regarding a vacancy occurs if the person dies, resigns, is determined by a court having jurisdiction to be mentally incompetent, is disqualified from holding office for any reason specified by law, and so on.
Okay, I'm good.
And I went as far as contacting a WHAM as well, the deputy director of WHAM, and the deputy director, the way that they explained it to me was that a person, an elected official, would have to do something quite extreme in order to even have a removal process happen for an elected official. Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott and Aaliyah, but as elected officials, we would have to do something pretty bad in order for that to even take shape, because in the state of Wyoming, it is hard to remove an elected official from their post.
That's accurate, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I had said that and confirmed that, and the deputy director of WHAM confirmed that for me as well. A member who's convicted of an offense enumerated in 6-5-113 shall be removed from his or her position within the governing body. But again, that would go back to an elected official would have to do something pretty intense and violate some specific laws in order for them to be removed. So I would think that if there was any issues, challenges, struggles within our council, it would, I mean, I'm going to knock on wood on this one, but I wouldn't think that we would ever get to that place where a person would be removed unless, again, they were to do something, make a very inappropriate decision. Questions on section 3?
More of a question on the actual statute. What is the duration of that? If I get in a barroom brawl and the worst happens,
Hopefully you do not.
In 2 years and 4 years, could it run again?
Scott, that's a question for you, sir.
Well, this generally pertains to while you're,
For your term,
during your term,
Okay.
right, while you are an official.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, there can be, and I haven't looked into that specific question, I mean, disqualifying things,
Yeah.
right? That could prevent you from running for obtaining office petition in the first place. But no, this is specifically about while in office.
Okay, while in office then. Off topic, but yeah.
No, that's a good question
I feel
though.
like it is on topic of just
No,
like, hey,
it
how
is,
far
it
this
is.
off?
No, it is on topic, because that is a good question.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting things that are happening out there in the world and in the community, and it's a good question.
2 more pages.
Okay, so I think we're done with section 3. Any additional questions on section 3? Okay. I just wanted to emphasize on section 4, the enforcement of the guidelines. I want to emphasize this piece because I want to go back to the idea that yes, it is hard to remove an elected official from their position. And this is not put in place so that we can remove anybody. This is put in place so that we can adhere to a standard in Evansville that we as elected officials will be held to a similar standard that the town employees are held to when they are employed here. If we think about it, we're making choices and decisions that impact the residents, they impact the town employees, they impact businesses, they impact the town as a whole. And I think it's important with section 4 that, there's that reiteration that we want everybody to be treated the same. I don't want Councilman Flesvig to be treated any differently than Councilwoman Edwards.
I would hope not.
I don't want there to be subjection in terms of how we are treating people. And that's the same for the mayor as well, that in the event that I am doing something that I shouldn't be doing, that's where the council president would step in and now has to take over the duties. The duties of the role. Well, you are the council president.
Now I'm blushing.
Don't do
But
it.
that is that position, and that is that role that I'm going to be held to the same standard that everybody else is going to be held to, and vice versa. And I think it's important that if we're going to sit up there, that I can
You
feel
should
your
still go
anxiety
over
over
here.
here. Well, we can rehab that conversation in January if you'd like. But I think it's important that we're all being treated the same, that we're not picking and choosing how we handle situations so that there is limited, there's always subjection. Mr. Gerke had said that in the last session. There's subjection with these things. And I think it's important to try to remove out as much subjection as possible.
Gives us a good game plan to follow.
Yes.
So,
And in any job, in any employment status that, you go into a job, you have a set of guidelines, you have a set of things that you have to follow. And in the event that, you're getting called into the principal's office or boss's office or whatever it might be, that you're being treated the same way that any other person is. And so again, this is not about a removal of an elected official. This is about us taking that initiative and rising to the occasion, because the way that things are moving, I would think that some of this is going to end up continuing to be a topic of discussion down the line. And the other mayors in the other municipalities, they knew that we were potentially looking at this, and if we do end up passing this proposed guidelines, the other mayors and commissioners have requested that they get to see this as well, because they might want to potentially implement something like this in their areas too.
Cool.
But we are kind of on a precipice of doing something that not many Wyoming municipalities have done up to this point.
They're just
They're
Testing.
testing the lights and
guidelines.
stuff, yeah.
today.
Any thoughts, any questions, any additional changes? We are looking at moving forward with the ethical guidelines and standards of professional conduct and it being in the frame of an ordinance for the vote tonight.
We're not done yet with 4.
We went through 4
Did
last
we?
time. No, we didn't.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I retract my former statement. Thank you. See, as the council president, you were holding me accountable. Thank you.
You guys also added in there the council president, council president if applicable part. If
Yes.
it was brought up towards you of disciplinary inactions, that she
Yep.
would be the one handling it.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's-
so
that's
that's a good new add that
Yes.
I think is a good thing to have in there.
Because it holds me accountable as well. Okay, sorry about that. I retract. No, it's great. It's great holding me accountable. Okay, so section 4, enforcement of code. To enforce the core principles and expectations of behavior set forth in the policies set forth in this code of ethics and conduct, the governing body adopts the following requirements for addressing and remedies any behavioral concerns or issues. A, notice. In the event any member of the governing body receives a written or oral complaint from another individual or personally witnesses an incident involving a member of the governing body wherein said member's actions are not in line with this code of ethics and conduct, the member shall immediately notify the mayor in person or through a detailed email. In the event that the complaint is involving the mayor, the member shall immediately notify the council president in person or through a detailed email. The first complaint following the receipt of the complaint regarding the behavior of a member of the governing body, the mayor or council president, if applicable, shall provide the member with detailed written notice regarding the behavioral issues. And that's specifically for documentation purposes. Line item B, opportunity to be heard. Second complaint, in the event of mayor or council president, if applicable, receives a second complaint about a member of the governing body's behavior that is the same or substantially similar to the first complaint, the member will be invited to a confidential meeting with the mayor, council president, and town attorney to discuss the complaints and circumstances. So that would be the second piece where the town attorney would be present for the discussion.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Why is it not the entire council as a whole body?
That's the third section.
That would be, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
No, that's good. That's line item C.
okay.
So that would be executive session. So the third complaint, in the event the mayor or council president, if applicable, receives a third complaint about a member of the governing body's behavior that is the same or substantially similar to the first and second complaints, the issue will be placed on the agenda for the executive session of the governing body's next meeting, or if is of an urgent nature, the mayor or council president, if applicable, may call a special meeting for the sole purpose of holding an executive session to discuss the complaint. After the confidential discussion of the complaint, issues and circumstances by the entire governing body, the governing body shall take a vote authorizing the town attorney to review the facts and circumstances of the complaint to determine if there has been a violation of Wyoming statutes and prepare a memorandum of law for the governing body.
Mayor Machado, I have a question.
Yes.
And I'm just asking because I don't know, you guys, I don't know, so I'm just asking.
Yeah.
So in B, C, I, and II, would we not include in there, like, if there was a closed door meeting? Because normally the clerk is there to take record of it, so I can't be like, no, I'm sorry, Mayor Machado, I did speak to you about this on this date and this date. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or is that just like an unwritten rule that it's, that's there? I don't know.
That's a good point.
Cause I think, I almost feel like it should be added in that the clerk would be there too, just because, so then it's like, no, and Clerk Underwood took notes on, or is that just an unwritten rule that you're
In
there?
fear that a complaint was made.
And then like, let's say like I
But
spoke with
then-
whoever, like, let's say I spoke with you about it and your rebuttal was, no, Scott, she never talked to me. This never happened.
Mhm.
No, I talked to you on January 32nd at, you know what I mean?
So then in line item B, you're wanting to add that the town clerk be present as well as the attorney.
Or is it just an unwritten rule that she's normally there for meetings? No?
Well, the town attorney would end up taking note of,
Okay.
of the situation or the discussion. But I
But
mean,
he does it
if-
in B1.
Mhm.
Is that just where me saying, hey, you got to clean up your behavior, XYZ, PDQ? But like, there's
That would
no
be-
rec.
That would be A1, but it does say written notice regarding. You are getting a written notice. In the very first complaint, there was a written notice
Mhm.
given to that individual.
Or oral.
But it says
Oh.
written notice. It can be oral,
You
but
can
it does.
receive the complaint either orally or in writing, but then notice of that complaint going out to
Is
the
written.
council member.
Okay.
Or mayor would
Okay.
be in writing.
And
So there at
then-
least will be documentation.
My bad, I'm sorry.
No, you're
No, you're fine.
These
You're
are all
fine.
good
There's no reason to apologize.
Yeah.
So are we saying that we want the town clerk to be in the second complaint meeting? Or are we just wanting it to be with the mayor and or the president and or the attorney?
I mean, I'm okay with just having
Wanting-
the attorney
wanting-
in there, just because, I mean, he or Aaliyah will be taking notes and they will have
Well,
in there what better covers
Scott,
the town.
Scott or Aaliyah, I think it's more of from a town liability standpoint. Would Janelle documenting the
Just-
interaction be different than a town attorney documenting the interaction? I guess that would be my thought.
I mean, to some extent,
Or
yes,
question.
because the notes that we would be taking in that instance are kind of for a different purpose in
Okay.
some ways.
Because my thought would be
Okay.
Janelle would be, the clerk, Miss Underwood would be more of a non-party, you know what I mean? Like she doesn't,
Okay.
I don't want to say she doesn't have a dog in the fight, but it's like, no, this is how it happened. You know what I mean?
Present.
And all that could be furnished for the executive session. Yeah, I mean, so
Yeah.
when it gets to that
Okay.
point, then we'll have official record from the town
Okay.
clerk.
Yeah, I see where we're going with this.
I
Okay,
like it.
let's add that.
Don't say sorry, these are good things.
No. Yeah, I don't know why you're apologizing.
You're on.
I promised my wife I wouldn't say anything, but what about who pays for the defense of the council person or the mayor if, let's just say, throw out a worst case scenario.
Okay.
You got sexual harassment, could be, there could be civil, there could be all kinds of things with it. So who is gonna pay, if this is all done internally inside the council, who is gonna pay for that council person's lawyer? And is that lawyer gonna be present? Because if they go to that meeting without an attorney, they're stupid, right? Because I don't think you'd do that, would you, Scott?
Would what?
Go to that meeting without an attorney?
No, I don't know. I mean, right now, I understand the question. I think that it would be, I don't think we've really thought about that.
But I think that needs to be.
Mhm.
Generally, in those situations, it's gonna be on
Because it's
that, on that
not-
individual,
Because
right?
at this point, you're not necessarily in violating the law, but you're in violating the council guidelines.
I would think that person would have to retain their own because he is contracted
Mhm.
with the town, so
Well,
therefore,
you don't want to use, no,
Yeah.
I'm saying I would have to get, I'll
Yeah.
just use myself as
Okay.
an example. I would have to get my own attorney.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And because it's a internal, it's not like it's not a situation that is public. It kind of is, but it isn't.
Hmm.
You know, but because I'm actually violating these guidelines,
Mhm.
I mean, to me, if you went to that meeting without representation, I think that would be kind of silly.
So Scott, could we,
I don't know.
Scott, no,
So I don't know who's responsible for that.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what
you
I'm
would,
saying?
But
the
the-
individual would be, I mean, even though it's an internal, it's an internal function. It doesn't, I don't think it falls within like the Administrative Procedures Act or anything like that. It's not a criminal type of procedure in which anyone would be entitled to a defense or entitled to, have an attorney present necessarily. So, I mean, that's a good question. I think we should flush it out a little bit, but.
I just
Yeah,
think
no,
some
it's
thought
good.
needs to get put into that, and I guess the only other thing I'll just say one more thing, 'cause that's all I really got to say. But I think we should make sure that all this stuff is looked into and is actually in writing before we like take a first vote. It seems kind of, because it isn't, because otherwise you're gonna have to add each one of those things into this before you vote, right?
Add each one of what things?
Well, whatever changes are being made.
we can still go into the first vote
So
while making
why
the
are we in
changes.
such a hurry, I guess?
It's just been, I feel like it's just been on the books for a while.
We've
Well,
been at
yeah,
this
it's been-
discussion for
This
8
is our
months.
second,
This has been.
Well, we
session.
had the work session. I'm just asking.
I
But
think,
anyway, that's all I have.
no, go ahead.
But along the lines of litigation, say you get to executive and the defendant has been exonerated, not them. Is the town now susceptible to a countersuit? Defamation, slander, whatever.
I mean, all this stuff is confidential.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
so then would defamation even count if the public's not being privy
Mm-hmm.
to the information?
I'm just wondering how far the litigation could go on this.
I mean, I think the hope is to not have to even go there
Yeah,
with legal
worst case
representation,
scenario.
or like we can just have a friendly conversation, nip it in the bud and move on. I mean, there might be a moment where there might be something that's there. But we would never not say no to a person's legal representation coming into any meeting,
Right.
because there's nothing to hide.
Okay.
But I would think that it would have to be something like extreme, because then at that point, when the attorneys get involved, it's because we have 3 consecutive
Well,
violations or
once
whatever.
my
meetings
concern
or
was,
violations.
is once you start having these meetings, then that, it's,
The ball gets rolling.
yeah,
I mean, it's
I-
valid, it's valid. No, it's.
But I
valid
think
thought.
if whoever the council person is, or mayor, whatever, changes their behavior, then there wouldn't be, I guess the hope would be that there wouldn't be any need,
That is correct.
hopefully.
and I'm too old to harass anybody anyway, but I mean,
No,
I'm
it
Well,
just,
not necessarily you, but
Same.
anybody.
yeah.
And it
I
talks
got you.
about the same or substantially similar.
Janelle, can you say that again? Huh?
It talks about the same or substantially similar to the first and second.
So it's having to address the
Yeah,
issue
over and over and
over and
over
over
again.
again. But obviously, if it's just council squabbles between each other, or, maybe a council member fraternizing with a town employee, or, what have you, those would be different versus, say, a council member coming to council intoxicated or on drugs or something of that nature. Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. But squabbles between council members would be lower on the totem pole versus a council member coming
I mean, I think
inebriated.
practically, yes, but there's not really any sort of like tiered structure with how this is right now that would say that. I mean, what's a council squabble, right? That's not defined, so it would depend on if any of the activities within that squabble arose to the things that are actually discussed in here.
Okay. So, we left off at D, because we'll circle back. Review by town attorney following the executive session if the governing body voted to authorize the town attorney to perform a legal investigation and review of applicable Wyoming statutes, the town attorney shall perform such actions, prepare a memorandum of law for the governing body, and include a legal recommendation on any available next steps pursuant to statute. So I think that kind of covers the discussion that we were just talking about, that we would have to have a vote between the council members that, no, we don't need to move forward, this can be handled
In-house.
in-house in this
Yeah.
discussion right here, or, wow, this is a really intense discussion, an important discussion, we might need legal representation. So we would all be a part of the discussion, which we should be. We should be a part of the discussions, I mean, especially if we're in an executive session. Line item E, referral to an outside agency in the event the actions of the member of the governing body are found to potentially be in violation of Wyoming statutes. The mayor or council president, if applicable, and town attorney shall contact the appropriate outside agency for review and consideration. But that's only if we get to that kind of a level, which, again, knock on wood, just saying, I wouldn't think we would have to go there. I would hope we would not have to ever go there. Thoughts? We've finished with section 4. Mr. Gerke, I'm going to make note of what you had said, your
It's just-
suggestion
just
with
a
legal
question.
representation. It's good. No, it's good. I'll make a note in that section and add that. Any other questions? We're at about 6:26 right now. Is there any final changes, questions?
Can we make this a resolution and not a ordinance?
So Aaliyah, so you and I had talked about this. Can you address the resolution discussion that you and I had talked about?
Can you turn her up? Would you
Yeah,
speak?
so the main difference between a resolution and an ordinance is when it comes down to the time period in which it's applicable and duration and intent. So resolutions, as you guys have seen before, when they come before the council are usually, like set in time period. So they're not, their duration is fixed. Let me point up this memo that I just wrote on it. It's usually like a kind of short period of time where either you're anticipating something to happen, so you're making a resolution to amend something for that short period of time, like you have open container at the park, stuff like that. Or you're making an amendment to the way to interpret policy or something like that. Whereas a ordinance is a more formal and more broad enactment of policy and law. And ordinances have quote unquote penalties, whereas resolutions do not. So because of the way that we formatted this and having it be hopefully of a long duration, years to come, and having kind of, the penalty section that we just discussed with the review, different sections of review, it doesn't really fit as an ordinance, just in the way that ordinances are intended. Let me pull this up really quick.
Aaliyah, while you're pulling that up, so even if we were to have this as an ordinance and say 5 years, 10 years down the line, even if it is in an ordinance, the council, the mayor at that point in time, whoever that may be, they could potentially end up bringing this back up either way.
Yeah, you can
So
only
it
put
really
amendments to
doesn't
it.
change.
Or it can be repealed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be repealed.
Yeah, so either way, even if it is an ordinance, it could still be repealed later on down the line. Because there's nothing with the way that it's written, there's nothing that says that it's set in stone forever. Okay, I just wanted to double check that.
Basically,
piece.
like, the main differentiation that I take away from it in this context especially is that a resolution is like the adoption of a motion. It's just like a more formal way to adopt a motion that is then made part of the governing body's documents usually. Or an alteration of a specific rule, but you're not altering the whole rule, or something that's temporary in character. And it's really like the temporary versus permanent nature of what you're intending to do. So an ordinance is a legislative enactment of general effect, whereas a resolution is an expression of temporal intent. The other differentiation is that is a resolution, you don't have to have any reading. You just bring it before, like, the council bring it before the council like a motion, and then it passes. So there's no period of public input.
Councilman, any other thoughts? Or questions
If
for?
I have it
Aaliyah or Scott?
understood, pretty much if it would be a resolution, it'd be 1 through 3, but number 4 makes it a ordinance with the penalties, more or less, I mean, as a rough understanding, so, okay.
Yeah. And then Councilman, you also brought up the sunset
A
clause
sunset
to
clause,
me, and
where
I
it would
wanted,
kill it after 4 years, 8 years, or.
but technically, if
Do they?
it was in an ordinance and the mayor and the council later down the line, they could end up repealing it and
They'd
killing
have
it
to
at that
take
point.
action to repeal it. A sunset would kill it without a.
Yeah, like a sunset type of provision, right, would put a temporal like component to it, right? It would say after 4 years or whatever, this will be vacated unless council at that time chose to renew it.
Correct.
But the purpose of, because I've been thinking about that since you and I talked. The purpose of this is, it's not just for the current people that are here, sitting here in these seats right now. It's for future people, future council people, future mayors, for them to adhere to a level of standard while we are in these positions. That's at least just my thought. But if potentially it could be repealed later down the line, that would be up to that mayor and that council to do so. Just kind of like how we look at ordinances now that other people have written or enacted, and we've changed them or added to them or things like that. It'd be no different, right?
Yeah, repeal that ordinance and rewrite it.
I just wanted to make sure that your thoughts got reflected. Any other
And
thoughts,
technically,
questions?
technically, if he wanted to, he could still put that forward and ask for that amendment, and then we would vote on that amendment, correct?
Yep, when we get in there, yeah.
Just curious.
Any other questions or thoughts regarding this?
Have a motion to adjourn?
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes at 6:33 PM. Thank you, Aaliyah.
Yeah, something with it.
Thank you. All right, now we've got. Hey guys, can we help Janelle move the tables and everything?
Yeah.